You have LF, which is largely or fully. F is fully. Okay, can you explain? If you can understand this one slide, then I think you can understand this ratings and the capability level. Okay, then I think we can go home. Let's spend a little time on this. Yeah, anybody would like to share ideas on this? But looking at this slide, what do you understand? If you can, just like I said, if you can understand this one slide, then you understood the PAM model, especially the key part, which is the most significant part here, the rating and the capability model. Yeah, do you have some insights? Anja, you would like to start?
I can understand it is in English.
I see, good.
What I can understand is that, okay, see, when we are talking about in COVID-5, they are level 1 to 5.
Okay.
So 1 to 5 is that we have to have a minimum level that the process should be there.
Okay.
And level 5 go to the optimizing.
Yeah.
So the level 1 says that, okay, even if you are not fully, but you are largely compliant. So you can have a level 1 as that. So that is a level 1. Level 1 is talking about L and F. Right? But then when you are going to level 2, 3, etc., then again it goes from level 2, again they say largely and fully, etc. So in last level, when you are talking about the optimizing, so it talks about the level 5, where you need to fully or largely complete.
Okay.
Yeah, but what I'm not able to understand is that, okay, when you are talking about the level 1, so in the level 1, we are talking about level 1 is largely and fully. But then the other products which are there, they are talking about that you should be fully compliant.
That's what. So now you have, for the purpose of understanding this, you also need to reverse it. Okay. So if you have to look at from the level 1 to 5, or also look at from the reverse way, you should look at, okay, how do you assess an enterprise at level 1 or level 2 or level 5 like that. So if you can understand this, I think then you can understand this PAM model.
Mainly based on the original PDCA, primarily it came from that. Then it went on to the continuous improvement. So first is, it combines PDCA and the DMA-IC model. It says how much you achieve and how consistently achieve.
Okay.
Based upon a prior achievement strategy.
Okay. Now that's good. So let's do one thing. I'll ask you some specific questions. Based on that, let's see how we can answer. Is it possible that I can go to level 2 without fulfilling level 1? No. So
these are actually processes in sequence.
Yeah.
Building the bottom ones, you can't go to an optimization or innovation level, from the.
Okay, which means if I have to be at level 2, which means I am fully compliant with level 1. Correct? That's one thing I should become.
At least in that process.
Well, that's right. So which means for the whatever process I've selected, let's take one process. I'll come to the example little later. For one particular process, if I fully complied with level 1, then only I can go to level 2. If I am partly or largely of this one, then I cannot go up to that particular level. That's one thing. Second, same way if I go the hierarchy, if I have come to level 3, which means I complied fully with level 2 and level 1. Which means only when I meet the attributes of level 1 and level 2, then I can go to level 3. Which means again, if I am at level 5, I have already complied with all the level 1 to 4, and then only I can reach up level 5. Okay. So whereas this now in the CMA model which we had earlier, it could be possible some process you are in level 4, some process you are level 2, some process you are level 3, that was possible. Now you find it not possible. Okay. So if you are at level 1, as far as the process performance concerned, only you are fully performing, then you can go to the next level where you're only when you implement that process, then you can say you are performing that process, you have process for that. Work product management is also there. In that you may be partly or largely like that you could have. Okay. Once you have achieved that second stage, yes, you are fully in that particular, achieved that level 2, then you can go up to that level. So that's how the hierarchy is climbed. This is what is explained here, which means now if you see here from the top, if you see, if I am at this one LF which means 5, which means it assumes that I am already at level, I have complied fully with level 4, I have complied with level 3. Do you see here the last column? Here, if I am level 5, okay, I am largely or fully. Why is not fully? There is another thing which is interesting which I found. Level 5, why is it L and F? Why is not F? Yeah, that's one thing. The other thing is optimizing, because say there is no end to that. It's a continuous process. You are continuously improving. That's why they generally market as largely and fully. You cannot say I have achieved 100% optimizing, because you keep on optimizing. Okay. Now, if you look at the last column, which means you are at level 5 largely fully, which means you already F and F. Okay. If you are at level 4, which means largely or fully for this particular process, and you already complied it fully with level 3, level 2 and level 1. Again, if you said if you are level 3, which means you already complied level F, and level 2 and level 1 you are fully complied. Similarly, if you look at level 2, which means you are complying with here fully with level 1, and then you are at level 4, this one. And level 1 means you are largely here. Is this clear? No, I think once you have got this idea, that it becomes much more simpler. Yeah?
The ISO 27001 does not talk about the continuous improvement. It talks about continuous improvement. Whereas here they are talking about the continuous improvement. So
Yeah.
if there is specific reason, and normally what happens, the organization will improve, but then there will be a time that they will maintain that level and then go on improving.
Correct.
It will be very difficult to have a continuous improvement. So what's the reason for that?
No, that's why I think most of the organizations you find they will be at level 4. Very few organizations go to level 5. And see, as per the level 5 or level 4 is concerned, what level should the organization aim for depends on the need of the organization. The organization also has to define based on the investment and the returns they are going to get, and they have to define whether level 4 is enough for us or level 3 is enough. It is not necessary that all organizations should aim to get level 5. It could be possible for the type of business process they are in, for the type of the services they are providing, level 3 could be more than enough to meet the business requirement. Okay. In some cases, depending on the needs of the organization, they may find level 4 should be more than enough. For example, Infosys provides services to different clients. Okay. When we visited the facility, in one of the cases we were using the COVID as a benchmark, we found some processes for certain clients they are level 5. For certain clients in terms of security and other areas, they are at level 4. So when you ask the difference, they said depends on the client capability to pay. As far as this is concerned, the client is happy with this type of security. We said this is what you're going to provide, and he said okay, he's going to pay that only. For that they are happy with this level 4. There are some clients who said no, we want the topmost security, we want the security to optimize, and they are prepared to pay. They want all the things because each level has certain requirements in terms of infrastructure, in terms of resources, in terms of processes, and costs in associated costs. So the client says no, for me it's more than enough if I at level 4. Similarly, within the process of Infosys itself, okay, for CMM, they were at level 5. When I used COVID 5 and did a COVID benchmark, for the purpose of security, you'd be amazed, I thought they should be at level 5. But when I used that COVID 5 maturity model itself at that time long back, I found they were between a level 4. And some of them at level 5. When I asked the difference, they said no, for us it's more than enough that we are at level 4. Okay, because we do not want to go to level 5. Business continuity, most of them they are at level 4 to 5. Okay. Project management, most of them, because they are already at CMM 5, I found most of the things as far as COVID 5 is concerned, they are already at level 5, as far as COVID also is concerned. So what should be the level for the organization should aim at, depends on the particular need of the organization. It is not necessary the highest level is the best level for the enterprise. The highest level is defined based on the different business needs. So they have to do a cost benefit analysis and decide what is the best level for them. Internally, there's one more important thing. If the organization has decided they would like to use, let's say, implement COVID for 10 processes, it is not necessary that for all the 10 processes they should be at one uniform level. For certain processes, it could be possible they are at level 4. In some cases, they could be at level 3. Another few cases, they may say level 2 is more than enough, because it depends on the risk versus return. So this is what you need to consider. Now, we understood two things. One is the process reference model, what is required. Second is we looked at the measurement framework. Let's understand the process assessment model. Now, we said in the case of the new PAM, you got 9 process attributes. There are process attribute indicators. And there is the process dimension, which is what measures the processes. There are about, in COBIT 4.1, there are 34 processes broken into 4 domains. Plan and organize, acquire and implement, deliver and support, monitor and evaluate. In COBIT 5, how many do we have? These processes? Process domains? No, that's okay. In process itself, if you look at domains, instead of 4, there are 5. The additional domain is the governance domain. In addition to that, in COBIT 4.1, it was PO. Now it is what? P? APO. Yeah. Now AI is acquire and implement. In COBIT 5, it is actually BAI, build, acquire and implement. Now in COBIT 4.1, it has DS. Now it becomes DSS, which is deliver, service and support. In COBIT 4.1, it has ME, monitor and evaluate. In COBIT 5, it is MEA, monitor, evaluate and assess. Okay, one more interesting thing. Is it possible that the process you have implemented in COBIT 4.1 is there in AI? Let's say AI 6 was manage changes. Do you expect to see that in BAI only? And should it be BAI 6? Yeah, it is not necessary, because one of the things which was done during the course of the discussion, during the course of the workshop, many of the processes which was pertaining to DS, they said no, this doesn't belong to DS, it has to go to AI. Or some of the processes which belong to AI may change to PO. So that it's not necessary that if you got some process which is in a particular domain in 4.1 should be there in 5 also. It might have changed. Okay, now if you look at the 2 dimensions, we said one is you got ISO, second is you got ISACA. Now ISACA provides the knowledge repository as far the content is concerned. The assessment comes from ISO. This is where there is the marriage of these 2 bodies as far as the PAM is concerned. Okay, this is what you use. You use the COBIT knowledge repository and you use the ISO process or approach. This is where we have the process assessment model, the level 5 which already discussed. Now if you look at the detail, if you go to the next level, we also have, based on level 1 to 5, we are looking at the process attribute indicator, which is called as PAI. It also requires what is called a generic practice, generic resource and generic work products. You also have additional performance indicators which are given level 1 based on the base practices and work products. These are some key terminologies which you need to use when you use the process assessment model. So what you need to understand is there is a level 1 to 5 and there are some additional performance process indicators we need to use. Let's look at some example and see. So the important advantage in using this process attribute rating is the assessment indicators are used to support the assessment judgment in the rating process attributes. Although there is a judgment involved, in most of the cases you find there could be, although it's subjective, in most of the cases you will find they follow a particular pattern. There might be some slight variation, but there will not be large variations. And the rating is based on objective validated evidence for each process attribute. So the assessor, when he is making an assessment, he is going through evidence and he is documenting how he has come to that particular conclusion. The traceability needs to be maintained between the attribute rating and the objective evidence. It's like you're doing an audit. So if you have come to a particular conclusion, you're also keeping a part of that evidence and documenting how did you come to that conclusion. Let's have a quick walkthrough, taking a particular example of COBIT 4.1 and DS1. Now this is an extract. This information, as I said, is extracted from COBIT 4.1 and it is given in the COBIT process assessment guide, which is available as a free download. Now if you see here, you have this process ID, process name, you have the purpose, outcome, best practices. Now this is what we said. You have the best practices, then you have the work products, which includes the input and the output. It also gives the relevant process which are supported. Assessment process capability, this is what you're going to do. Does the process achieve its defined outcomes? You're looking at PI 1.1 And this you're going to verify or validate by looking at evidence. Production of an object, a significant change by implementing the process, what are the change which has been brought in, and what are the goals which are achieved. Based on that, you're going to mark it as not achieved, partially achieved, largely achieved, or fully achieved. Similarly, you're going to do it for performance management. So same way, you're going to ask these questions. Based on that, you'll decide at what level it has been measured. Again, you go to the next one, 2.2, work product management. You'll decide what level it is. So once you've done this, you'll incorporate this in a table, okay, which has these 9 attributes, and you'll have this attribute achievement, not achieved, partially, largely, or fully. Okay, so you have each of this, and then you mark the particular levels. Okay, now let's look at the assessment process. If you have to do an assessment, this is a 7-step process which is given in the PAM document. First, there is the initiation of the project. You plan the assessment, perform a briefing, collect the data, validate the data, and based on that you provide the rating, and then you prepare the results. This is, I think, a standard process which is followed for any assessment. Initiation, you will identify the sponsor, the person responsible, and define the process of the assessment, why it is being carried out, who is going to carry out, where it is going to be carried out, which are the processes. It is not necessary that you are going to cover all the 37 processes. You will select the process for which you are going to assess. What are the constraints, if any, applicable, any additional information you require, and who are going to the participants who are going to be part of this particular assessment, the team members, and you will also define the role of the team members. And you'll get the approval. Then you do a scoping. Scoping has this 6-step process. You identify the relevant business drivers in terms of why that process assessment is required, what the business need, prioritize the enterprise IT process that may be included within the scope of the assignment. Like I said, out of the 37, they decide 12. Out of the 12, which is the top priority. Then you perform a preliminary selection of the target process for inclusion. Then confirm the preliminary selection of the target process from the project sponsor. Finalize the process to be included and document the scoping methodology. Any questions? Okay, I have a question. Now we said in this particular case, we are going to select the process, and based on that we are going to do an assessment. So if the organization is going to say we have complied with COBIT 4.1, okay, then can we say they are 100% complied? Yeah, for the selected process, okay, or for the selected department. If they decide to implement in a particular department, and in that particular department, let's say there are 6 processes which are applicable. For that 6 processes, they can say this is what we have done. So in the certification, it becomes very important to clearly state what are the specific areas which are selected for this one. So although it's for the enterprise, you need to be very clear. So depending on the type of certification, you can get certification at different levels. You can do an enterprise level certification, you can do a department level certification, you can focus on a particular area or a particular application like that. You can look at specific areas, specific functions, based on that you can do the certification. So just because you got a certification doesn't mean 100% all the processes, 100% they implemented COBIT. So scoping becomes important. How do you do scoping? So these are some of the information you can use. For example, you could use the enterprise goals to business goals, or the business goals to IT goals which are there. IT goals to the IT process. You can do a mapping of the IT process to IT governance, or based on the COSO model, the templates which are available in 4.1. You can also do based on the SOX implementation. Many enterprises use this for the purpose of SOX implementation. For the purpose of SOX implementation, COBIT has given a model saying that, okay, if you are implementing SOX, these are the specific processes you can use it for. Or there are also some sample templates available for cloud computing or for self-diagnostic. So this gives you the example. If you are using this, for example, it is a financial perspective. These are the processes which are applicable, the business goals based on the IT goals, and then you select which one is the one you are going to prioritize. And based on that, you select the process you are going to work on. For example, in this enterprise, you have decided to focus on PO5 and DS6. And then you plan the assessment. It's like documenting everything, what you're going to do. Prepare the schedule, identify the project scope, get the necessary resources to perform the assessment, determine what is the methodology for collecting, reviewing, or validating the data, how you're going to get the assessment, and you need to coordinate the assessment activities with the organizational unit who is being assessed. Then you do a briefing. Briefing is briefing for the whom? Briefing from the team and also for the client. Clearly telling them what are the input they're going to use, what are the process they're going to assess, and what is the output you're going to get from this. We also do a briefing for the organizational unit on how we're going to do an assessment of the performance, which will include the explanation for the model, explanation of the assessment scope, the scheduling, when it's going to be done, how it's going to be done, what are the time, and any constraints, the roles and responsibility, what's going to be done by us, what are the roles of the client, and what are the resource requirements. Then you collect the data, you validate the particular data, so these are some of the measures you can use for data validation. And then you perform a process attribute rating, where you assign the rating. What is the rating here? You have this P, N, which is not achieved, which is 0 to 15, P, which is 15 to 50, and then 51 to 85, and then 85 to 100. Based on that, we have this N, P, L, and F. Now, whatever rating you are giving, it's important that you need to have a objective evidence of how did you come to that particular conclusion. You need to document it. And you should be able to trace the documentation to the source. Based on that, you come to the result, where you do the evaluation overall and come to a conclusion as to what stage it belongs. You also need to communicate what are the strengths and weaknesses you observed, and you also need to identify the risk. Now, this gives an example. For example, in this process A, now it is largely a target capability. This is where we are now. This is where we would like to be. Process C, we can do it for specific processes. Then you also need to look at the consequence of the capability gaps. Okay, the capability gaps, now if you look at this, can you understand this? If you can understand this, I think one slide, then you understood the rating mechanism. Why is the risk highest in the 1? Yeah, the process itself is not being performed. Okay, there are no documents, etc. In that case, the risk is the highest. Okay, and the risk is the lowest in the case of the topmost. This one, it goes in that particular level, which means higher you define the process, you document, and you have performance management, the higher you'll go in that particular this one hierarchy of the levels, and the lower would be the risk. So at the lowest level, you will have the highest risk. At the highest level, you will have the lowest risk. This gives you the capability gaps in the risk, indicated by the extent of capability. So you can use this ready-made table for the purpose of making an assessment and presenting to the client. So if you look at the performed process, it's light, there is a medium risk, significant, which means there is a high risk, and substantial, there is a high risk. In a managed process, these two are medium risk, but in the case of substantial, this is a high risk. Okay, so it gives you at each of these layers what is the type of risk. Level 5, all the three are supposed to be low risk. Any particular reason? Yeah, you only look at continuous improvement. You have got all the process in place and you are already managing it. So it's not a big area of concern.